professional solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Good evening and welcome to Power Your Life. I'm your host, Joanne White. We begin tonight with the inspirational story of Scott Crossin, a 9-time marathoner and the executive director of Back on My Feet, a national nonprofit organization that uses running to help people experiencing homelessness transform their lives and achieve employment and independent living. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So before you joined Back on Your Feet, you were with QVC, and you were there for 19 years, correct?
Correct.
As the vice president of production. What made you do that tremendous shift, that quantum leap as we were talking about?
I was so fortunate to spend the first 2 decades of my career with an amazing company, with great people, great culture, very innovative, which is why I was there for almost 20 years. But the last few years, I found myself searching for more fulfillment, more purpose in my career, and I was looking for a way to combine the thing that I'm most passionate about, which is running, and a purpose that I believed in deeply, in some way helping others to be their best and to feel empowered, and I found that in Back on My Feet.
What does running teach people? What did it teach you, firstly?
Running, I think there are so many people. I think every runner has a story. Mm-hmm. I certainly do, and my loved ones and my family members. Running has gotten me and my family through some very difficult times. At times when we were lacking motivation, when maybe we were not feeling so great about ourselves. So I've personally experienced how running can help build that physical and emotional strength, self-confidence, goal setting, and you realize that you can achieve anything.
You know, it's wonderful when you have that ability, and running is very empowering. I like to do power walking. It's not quite
that
running,
qualifies,
but,
sure.
but it's the same kind of thing. And people also work out. It's something that, like you said, it helps inspire and motivate. So the people who are experiencing homelessness, how does running help them? And there's a community that you're building here, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So we partner with 5 shelter facilities across Philadelphia, and we introduce our running program to the residents of those shelters. And teams are formed at each of the shelters that are comprised of the residential members as well as volunteers. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30 a.m., that's in the morning, the teams run. And so any given Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5:30 a.m., there are about 150 Back on My Feet team members running through the streets of Philadelphia. And again, in a way that is very much a sense of community, a very safe haven. Everyone shows up at 5:30 in the morning wearing running shorts and sneakers and t-shirts, or hats and gloves, and you don't know who is homeless. You don't know who has a job. You don't know who has a home. So it's very much a level playing field and a very supportive environment and community for our folks.
Which I think is fulfilling, not just for the people experiencing homelessness, but also the volunteers, that community that gets built, and that people are finding some common ground, not just with running, but with the exaltation that's involved with it. What happens then to the people who are experiencing homelessness? They're part of the community, they're running, they're getting that ego building, that sense of accomplishment and achievement. Then what's next for them?
I think that's one of the best things about Back on My Feet. We offer our members an opportunity to do something for themselves, to earn an opportunity to move their life forward. So for the first 30 days, when they are out running, they have to maintain 90% attendance or better, right? So in any given month, that means you can only miss one day, right? And you have to be a great teammate, and you have to have a positive attitude, right? So this is the criteria that you need to meet in order to transition to the next steps part of the program, and that's where the magic happens, right?
But there's a certain amount of discipline that you're talking about that goes into not just for the people experiencing homelessness, but for the volunteers to be able to achieve that. And so once they do that, the next step is what happens next?
That's where we partner with the residential member and map out a plan for their self-sufficiency. Everyone has, one of the biggest eye-openers for me was the diverse backgrounds and situations that led to these folks experiencing homelessness. So we're very keen on mapping out a plan towards self-sufficiency that is unique and relevant to them.
So it's very individualized, and
Very
they have that
individualized.
support so they don't feel alone. And what's the success rate?
About 3 out of 4
That's
who
pretty good.
participate in our program achieve independence through employment and independent living. So we're very proud of that.
And people who were experiencing homelessness and then now move into the community, they have a job, they have a place to live. Do they ever come back and talk to you? Are they still involved in running?
Which is wonderful. They are our alumni members.
Oh, wow.
And most of our alumni members, when they achieve independence, when they are fully employed and they have their own home, most of them continue to run with the teams and be a part of all of our events. And most of them serve as mentors for some of the residential members. They can look them in the eye and say, I was in your shoes, I was in this facility.
So that's so fulfilling on all levels and so gratifying.
Sure.
Do you ever look back?
At my career
Yeah, to
decision?
where you've been and where you
Yeah.
are now, and here you are, you're doing something that you love and that's so wonderful and helping so many people. You did that before, but this is
for sure.
something totally
It
different.
is different. It is different. Again, I was fortunate to be with a great company, have a great job and a great career that I truly enjoyed. It just wasn't the fulfillment that I was looking for. So no regrets whatsoever when it comes to taking this path. I'm working hard, but it hardly feels like work.
Well, that's the best
Every
kind,
day,
that's the best kind of work that happens, really, to be able to work and love it and really feel not only that you're fulfilled, but you're helping other people feel fulfilled at the same
feels good.
time. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scott, and have a great day
Thank
and
you
a
so
great
much.
evening. There's so much more ahead on Power Your Life. I'll be talking to an inspirational speaker and a pioneer who helps people find the true meaning of their lives and then the good, the bad, and the ugly of the television industry. Finding true happiness and enlightenment is certainly no easy task. How do you go about finding yourself and finding the true meaning of your life? Joining us now is inspirational speaker and author Roshi. Hello, Roshi. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm wonderful, thank you. I have
Thank
this
you.
book that you gave me, Kokoro, and you helped me pronounce it, so that's great, The Heart Within. And isn't that what Kokoro means?
Yes, it's the Japanese word for what in the East is considered the place of true knowledge, the place of wisdom. So it's about where in the West we conceptualize everything here
Right.
about life. The Japanese and Zen in particular speaks about the heart within as the true place of knowledge. All real knowledge happens here.
You know, it's wonderful because there's so much research lately about how the heart really is being able to give the brain information and the body information and do so much. So Buddhism knew that for thousands and thousands of
Yes,
years, right?
yes,
Okay. Speaking of Buddhism, there's so much about what I've read, and you have this beautiful book, and you write so beautifully. I've read a
Thank
lot of
you.
your stuff, and there's something about resolve that Buddha talked about and that you speak about a lot of. How does that work in with living an authentic life and with relationships?
Well, resolve comes out of a place of understanding, first of all, that as the Buddha taught and all of the enlightened masters speak about, the fact that we are here to be who we truly are. So Buddhism talks a great deal about discovering one's original self, one's true nature, that nature prior to where culture and society has reshaped it and contrived this new person. So it comes out of the resolve is a function of recognizing that my singular purpose in life is to live my life as truly and as authentically as who I am, and to express that in the world. And when you understand that that is not only the purpose, but the singular source for true happiness, the resolve seems to rise naturally.
You know, I love that. And also within Buddhist teachings is a lot about giving and being part of the community and relationships. So that's also coming from the heart. Isn't that true?
Yes, we are hardwired for love, as I mentioned.
I love that.
Yes, we are
Hardwired for love,
We
yes.
come into the world as loving beings, and it is our nature to want to give. It's our nature to want to be part of a community of other and so forth. And in fact, from the Buddhist perspective, when we are suffering or dealing with stress, it is the absence of that going on for us. So when we find ourselves not able to, as I call, live at the level of full self-expression and as a benefit to the world or to my community or other, we will find that suffering will rise and compound for us.
So I think, and again, a lot of Buddhist teachings and your teaching speaks about that we have to really understand suffering and come to terms with it to be able to really experience the joy of life as well. Now, how do we find the spiritual in everyday life, in the so-called mundane, if you will?
Well, I think Chardin gives the best hint in that when he says, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I often tell people, you are Buddha, act accordingly, you see. And so we need a real shift or a new paradigm for living life, particularly in today's culture, which is all about more, better, and different. Finding things outside yourself that will make you better, make you have more, be different, and so forth. And
rather than going within and seeking that,
yeah,
right?
And realizing that you already have all of that. We are born, if you notice on the book, I'm holding an acorn, and I usually bring that to my talks in high schools and colleges.
Oh, that's great.
And I ask people, what is this? And obvious answer is it's an acorn. I will tell them they're wrong, look again. And eventually we get to the truth, and the truth is it's an oak tree. And I explained to him that just like the acorn, everything you need to be who you truly are, which is the source of your rare happiness, already exists within you. You came fully packaged for what was necessary for Joanne to be Joanne in a way as a force of nature, rather than some contrived ideal of someone else's life.
You know, I think I got that several years ago, which was nice. Too bad we didn't get it earlier. But wouldn't it be wonderful, Roshi, if everybody was able to recognize that Buddha within themselves and be able to live accordingly? I think so many things in our world would be different.
Absolutely, because there's a Zen saying that the world is upside down. And what it means is that our perception of the meaning of life is completely different from reality. And reality, when we live in the Pine Lands at the Zen Center, and when you look in the Pine Lands all the time, I tell people, I've never seen a neurotic squirrel or deer, or I've never seen a bird afraid to fly, you see. It seems to be a human condition. And yes, when we realize that we are possessed with this unlimited, infinite potential to be forces of nature, I say that most people in the world are unhappy, which is the source of global suffering, because they're all living lives they would rather not live.
You know, I think that's so important for all of us to get to recognize the Buddha is within us and that we have that potential and that potentiality.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Roshi.
Well, it's my
have
pleasure.
a blessed evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ahead, the ever-changing television industry. What's good, what's bad, and what's ugly? Coming up next, entertainment reporter Neal Zoren tackles the issue. More and more shows on television are embracing disability, and the number of shows that are prominently featuring characters with special needs is increasing. Meanwhile, there's also a lot of trash on TV. Joining me now to offer insight about the TV industry is Neal Zoren of Delaware County Times and nealspaper.com. It's great to have you, Neal.
Great being here.
Well, you've been making me laugh all along today, and this evening, so it's really great.
Well, there you go. I hope I'm not dull during the show.
No, not at all.
all.
You couldn't possibly be dull. And some of your writing about people and about television and what's going on in television is just absolutely fascinating.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I love doing it. And the people are why I like doing it. Because my attraction has always been to the actor and the person behind the scene, more than actually the program itself. I love the program to be polished. I don't like to see process when I'm watching a program, but I love talking to the people who do it, because you meet the most fascinating people in the arts and in show business and in the business side of television. It's a great industry.
And you get some information that you don't usually see, right?
Yes,
So, okay.
a lot of information. You learn a lot of things.
So let's shift a little bit to disability, because that is up and coming, and I'm glad to see that, because I'm, for one, a very strong proponent of that. Why is that shift happening?
Well, I think for better or worse, television always been the chronicle of the time. And then, but also being an entertainment industry, you have to have what the time will accept. So if you look back in the history of television, you'll see that it was the soap opera and the cartoon that introduced people who, with disability in an empathetic way, not in a comic way, which is one of the dangers of it. So you find that in soap operas, they would introduce a character who had a disease, or a character who had an addiction. And that's where the first places are. And series television is sort of just catching up with that. You've had some of it. Marlee Matlin was on a series very early, and of course she is deaf, as we know, and is an Oscar winner. But now you have characters who either play people who with disabilities, like Kevin McHale, who's in Glee, who is not.
Right.
You know, as you see in the movie, he gets up and dances, so you know he's not there, and people like Blake Underwood on Ironside, and Raymond Burr did that before, the blind. But you also have things like switching, the ABC switched at birth, where you have 4 deaf people.
But more and more, that what's happening with television is they're trying, I think, to have people with disabilities actually be in the roles themselves, rather than having just actors doing that.
And part of that is because people are militating to that.
Well, good.
Somebody like Marlee Matlin will say, "Why are you hiring somebody to play somebody deaf?"
When I could do
that,
right.
I won an Oscar too. Jane Wyman won an Oscar playing somebody deaf.
Right.
Patty Duke won an Oscar playing somebody deaf. But I really am deaf, and maybe I should be able to want to do it. So there are more people of that. And I think that started back with Life Goes On, when they had the child with Down syndrome.
Right.
And of course now you have Michael J. Fox, who is really important because he ended his career and ended a television series because of Parkinson's disease.
Right.
And now he's playing a character with Parkinson's disease because it is a part of life. I worked with disabilities for a long time, worked with a multiple sclerosis organization. I used to tell people that whatever happened to the economy and whatever happened with anything else, it didn't cure multiple sclerosis. It goes on.
Right.
And the way to build awareness of that, the best way to build awareness of that is in characters on television. If people can see what happens in a disability, they'll understand the disability and maybe even learn to be more tolerant about disabilities.
And that's why I think it's so important. You mentioned something earlier, and that is that we weren't originally doing humor with people with disabilities. And sometimes when comedians are making fun of themselves, of who they are, some of their quirks, whatever, it lends more in terms of acceptance of those people. So that's shifting too, isn't it?
Well, there's room for both. There's tasteful and not tasteful.
Right.
Or there is funny, and you just have to live with the funny and realize that sometimes something about you might be the victim of that humor. But that's what humor is. And humor is a healer.
I think so.
Humor it's an odd word to use these days because it has so many connotations. But humor is a conservative thing. Humor is a thing that shows that normality, the humor comes from the absence of normality. The reason somebody laughs when somebody slips on a banana peel and doesn't worry about whether they're hurt is because it's so out of kilter for somebody to be walking and then fall.
I have a question. Reality TV is so strong. People love it. I'm still trying to figure out a lot about it, and yet I know I have friends and so many people that are watching certain shows religiously. Give me a little bit to understand what's so special about reality TV.
People are voyeurs. People are voyeurs.
Okay.
They like to see other people's lives, and they love to feel superior. I mean, go to Walmart. It's to feel superior. Or watching Jeopardy makes you feel a little sometimes a little inadequate. But watching Wheel of Fortune, when you say, "Why are you buying a vowel? It's obviously this,"
Right.
makes you feel good, and that's what I think reality programs do. From a television point of view, they're on because they're cheaper. You don't have to pay talent. You may have to pay a Joan Rivers some money, but most people are doing it. They're getting their name, and people like laughing at people. People watch Jerry Springer shows or Honey Boo Boo to laugh at them. People watch the Kardashians because they're jealous of the grand lifestyle.
Right,
exactly,
right,
and that's glamour to them. Same thing with things like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I mean, they're produced by Disney, and they're Disney sets. That's not real glamour. That's not real elegance, but that's what passes for it.
So what's the trash? Are we allowed to even say that? Or, I mean, maybe it's not fair to say that, and we only have a little bit of time to do that.
Most of television is trash.
I didn't hear that.
Yes, you did. Most of television, I said it, I'll say it again. Most of television is trash. And the reason it's trash is because you have so many outlets for television now. When you had 3 networks and maybe a couple of independent stations, you had to have a certain amount of quality. Even then, you didn't always have it. Now, programmers have to fill hours and hours and hours and hours. Some of it's going to be the same thing with the same jingly jangly music. The good news is that when you produce hundreds of thousands of programs a year, as happens on television, you get some gems. And when the Emmy nominations come out every year, you see how valuable the television is in spite of the trash.
You know, I love that, and I love the gems because I think that's so important.
It is, and there's a lot there, and there's a lot
You've been so
happening.
wonderful. Thank you so much, and have a great
welcome.
evening. Don't go anywhere. Power Your Life will be right back. On next week's Power Your Life, I'll talk to a Scientologist, not a Scientologist, to find out why certain smells evoke your memories. Plus, learn how to make gluten, dairy, and soy-free sweets and thrive financially in the new year. Some practical advice for all of us. I hope you'll join me. Remember that you have the power to power your life.